Ladies and gentlemen, losing someone doesn't mean losing yourself. It might feel like it in the beginning. When someone leaves your life, whether by choice, by distance, or by force, it can feel like a part of you walked out with them. You remember how much of yourself you gave, how much of your identity got wrapped up in them. Your laughter had a shared rhythm. Your dreams had a shared shape, and your days were colored by their presence. So when they go, it feels like someone took the air out of the room and left you standing in the quiet, unsure of who you are without them. But that's the thing. Who you are was never depend on who stayed. The pain of losing someone you love is undeniable. It hits you in the chest, makes it hard to breathe, and turns even the brightest days into something dim. But even in that pain, there's something unshakable that remains. You, your essence, your soul, your heartbeat, the things that made you, you before they arrived. And those things are still there, even if they feel buried beneath the age of loss. We often give so much of ourselves to people, not just our time, but our energy, our hopes, our trust. And when we do that, we tend to blend the lines between where we end and where they begin. It's beautiful when it works, when it's mutual, when it's safe. But when it breaks, we feel like we've been shattered too, like we don't know how to exist without that person to mirror us. But the truth is, you existed before them. You had thoughts, joy, ambition, and purpose before they ever entered the picture. You may have forgotten that, but it hasn't disappeared. Losing someone might strip away the comfort of their presence, but it doesn't strip away your worth. It doesn't erase your voice. It doesn't take your potential. What it does do, if you let it, is open a doorway to rediscovery. Because when the noise quiets, when the echo of their absence softens, you get the rare opportunity to listen to yourself again. To ask the hard questions, what do I want? What do I value? What have I neglected in me while I was busy trying to hold someone else together? This loss, this space they left behind, can become a sacred space, not because they're gone, but because now you can fill it with things that truly matter to you. You can redefine what joy looks like without needing someone else to provide it. You can remember the hobbies you let go of, the goals set aside, the pieces of your personality you dulled to fit into someone else's world. You can light your way, even if the path ahead looks unfamiliar. There's strength in still being here, in waking up the next day, in making the coffee, showing up to work, answering the phone, smiling at a strange. Those small things feel massive when your heart is heavy, and doing them anyway is proof that you're not lost. You're healing, slowly, quietly, but healing nonetheless. You're still the same soul that's weathered storms before. You've come through heartbreak, disappointment, rejection, and grief. And here you are, maybe bruised, maybe tired, but still standing. That means something. That means everything. Because if losing them meant losing you, you wouldn't still be here. You are. That's the difference. You don't have to be the same person you were when they loved you. You don't have to shrink yourself to fit back into the version of life you had with them. It's okay to evolve. It's okay to grow beyond the place they left you. It's okay to laugh again, to try and to love again. Not because they're gone, but because you're not. You stayed, and there's so much more ahead for you. Losing someone doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you failed, and it certainly doesn't mean you're unworthy of love, connection, or happiness. It just means you're being asked to meet yourself in a deeper way, to hold your own hand, to sit with your own pain, and to eventually, when you're ready, rise from it. Not as someone who lost everything, but as someone who remembered what was never lost to begin with. Pain is the doorway to self-discovery. It doesn't feel like that at first. When you're in the middle of it, pain just feels like chaos, like a storm ripping through your chest that you didn't see coming. It feels unfair, too heavy, too personal. It isolates you. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about life, about people, about yourself. But if you stay with it, if you sit in it long enough without trying to numb it, avoid it, or rush past it, you begin to hear things. You begin to see yourself more clearly than ever before. Pain has a way of peeling back the surface when everything is going right. We don't often question much. We glide through days with smiles, distractions, plans. But when pain arrives, it interrupts everything. It forces us to stop. And in that pause, we are stripped down to our most honest selves. We begin to ask, why does this hurt so much?
What am I really grieving? Who was I before this happened? And who am I now? The questions come with immediate answers.
But the asking is part of the process. It's the beginning of a deeper awareness. There is something sacred about the rawness that pain brings. In the midst of tears, silence, or even rage, there is a truth that starts to emerge. A truth about what we care about, what we need, what we're afraid of, and what matters most to us. Pain forces you to look at the cracks in the foundation. It reveals the parts of you that were aching long before the current wound appeared. Maybe you realize you've been chasing validation instead of connection. Maybe you discover how long you've been neglecting yourself in pursuit of being accepted by others. Maybe pain reminds you that you've been silent for too long and it's time to speak. It's not that pain gives you new information. It's that it makes you unable to ignore what's already been inside you. The discomfort becomes a mirror, a spotlight, a wake-up call. And while that awakening can be brutal, it's also transformative. You start to see your patterns. You start to notice how you move through relationships, how you respond to loss, how you handle fear. And with that noticing comes the power to change. Self-discovery born from pain isn't glamorous.
It's not Instagram quotes and candle-lit journaling. It's crying alone in your car.
It's sitting in a room that used to feel safe and suddenly feels unbearable. It's admitting things you've tried to bury. It's the quiet kind of courage, the kind that gets up in the morning when everything feels pointless. The kind that chooses to stay present even when escape seems easier. The kind that says, I don't know where this is going, but I trust that I'll find something in it. Over time, pain becomes the teacher you never asked for but always needed. It shows your limits, but also your strength. It strips away what isn't real. It asks you to let go of the illusions you've held on to. About others, about life, about yourself. And it doesn't let you return to who you were before. That version of you is gone. But that's not something to mourn. It's something to honor, because what comes next is a truer version, a deeper version, a more conscious version. You find out what you really value. You find out what you're willing to fight for and what you're finally ready to walk away from. You discover parts of yourself that were hidden under layers of expectation, performance, and fear. You begin to reclaim pieces you thought you lost. And in doing so, you become someone new, someone honest, someone who knows their own depths. Men, as much as we wish it would pass us by, is often the exact that leads us to our own becoming. We think it comes to destroy us, but more often it's here to reveal us. To break down what isn't true so we can start building something real. And though we may never ask for it, and we may never want to repeat it, we can still be grateful for what it uncovered. Because on the other side of pain, there's clarity, there's strength, there's self. And sometimes, that's the only way we truly find it. The silence that followed taught me the loudest truths. It didn't happen all at once, at first. The silence felt unbearable. It was thick like a fog, stretching over every corner of my day. No more texts lighting up my phone. No more laughter echoing through shared spaces. No more voices to fill the quiet. Just me and the sound of everything that wasn't being said. It was jarring. The kind of silence that makes you realize how much noise you'd been living with. Noise you thought was connection, but in hindsight was mostly distraction. When someone walks away or when a chapter ends, there's often a stillness that follows. It creeps in slowly.
It settles like dust on everything. In that stillness, your mind doesn't know where to go. It loops memories, replays conversations,
revisits choices. The silence becomes a room full of questions you never thought you'd have to ask. Was it my fault? Did I miss the signs? Was I ever truly or just convenient? These thoughts echo loudest in the quiet, and as painful as they are, they start pointing something deeper, truth. Silence is uncomfortable because it doesn't let you hide. There's nothing to drown out the thoughts you've been avoiding. No one to tell you what to feel. It's just you. And that can be terrifying if you're used to outsourcing your sense of self to other people. But once the panic fades, once the loneliness stops roaring, you start to hear something else beneath all of it. You start to hear yourself, your real voice. Not the one shaped by expectations or fear or someone else's approval, but the voice that's been waiting patiently for the noise to die down. It's in the silence that I realized how many times I had silenced myself, how often I said, "It's fine," when it wasn't. How many things I let slide because I didn't want to be too much. How often I bent myself into versions of what I thought would make me easier to love. The silence showed me all of that. Not to shame me, but to wake me up, to say, look, you've been losing pieces of yourself, and now it's time to come back. There's something raw and honest about the truths that rise in silence. They don't come dressed up. Good, they don't come softened. They arrive in sharp clarity. This hurt you. That wasn't love. You deserve better. You stayed too long. You forgot yourself. And even those truths sting, they're healing. Because truth is the only thing strong enough to rebuild with. Illusions crack in science. Excuses fall apart. What you're left with is what's real. And what's real is the foundation for something new. Something healthier, something yours. I learned in the silence that peace isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of self. It's the way your body exhales when you're no longer performing. It's the strange comfort of realizing you don't have to chase anyone. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to be here, honest, awake. I also learned who was truly there for me when things went quiet. A lot of voices disappeared. The people who were there for the good times, the ones who only knew the polished version of me, they vanished. And that hurt. But it also clarified. It made room. It helped me stop pouring into places that never held space for me in return. And once you know that, you stop begging to be seen. You start walking where you're welcome, where you're merely tolerated. That kind of wisdom does come from noise. It doesn't come from constant stimulation. It comes from quiet, from space, from stillness. The silence, once something I feared, became something I cherished. It became the mirror I couldn't look away from. It forced me to face myself. And in doing so, I found a deeper kind of truth. One I could live by, not just survive with. It's strange to say, but the silence saved me. It stripped away the unnecessary. It carved out room for clarity. And in that room, I found truths I never would have heard if life had stayed loud. Truths that hurt, but also healed. Truths that changed everything. Growth looks like walking away without needing revenge. It's not the kind of growth that people celebrate out loud. It's quiet and visible to most, and often misunderstood. People expect fireworks, grand exits, dramatic confrontations. But real growth doesn't always come with a show. Sometimes it's as simple and as powerful as choosing peace over proving a point. It's the moment you could clap back, expose the truth, or retaliate, but you don't. Not because you couldn't, but because you've outgrown the need to. There's something deeply human about the desire for revenge. When someone hurts you, lies to you, disrespects you, or breaks your trust, it's natural to want justice, to want them to feel what you felt, to want the story to turn around in your favor so everyone sees who was really right, who was really loyal, who truly cared. But that's ego talking. That's pain doing the thinking. And when we act from that place, we might win the argument, but we lose the opportunity to rise above it. Walking away without needing revenge doesn't mean you weren't hurt. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you've chosen not to let their actions dictate your character. It means you've realized that proving someone wrong isn't as important as protecting your peace. Revenge is rooted in staying connected to the person who caused you pain. It keeps you tied to their choices, still reacting to their story. Growth is untangling yourself from that. It's saying, I'm not giving this any more of me. You learn that not everything broken has to be fixed. Not every betrayal needs to be avenged. Sometimes the best thing you can do is leave things where they fell and walk forward without looking back. That's not avoidance, it's maturity. It's knowing the difference between fighting for yourself and fighting for your ego. One brings healing, the other only brings more damage. There's power in silence. There's power in not responding, not explaining, not justifying. It feels unnatural at first. You want to tell your side. You want people to know what really happened. But eventually you realize that truth has a way of revealing itself without your help. And when it does, you'll be glad you didn't lower yourself to match the energy that tried to tear you down. You'll be glad you stayed rooted in who you are, not in what they did. Growth looks like setting boundaries without needing to shout about them. It looks like blocking a number, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. It looks like deleting a message you wrote in anger because you know it won't change anything. It looks like letting go of the apology you never got and the closure that may never come. It's messy, it's hard, and it often feels unfair. But it's also where freedom lies. You stop seeking revenge when you realize you're not the same person who was hurt. That version of you needed answers, needed justice, needed someone to feel the pain they caused. But this version, the one who's healing, growing, choosing softness over spite, that version sees the bigger picture. That version is more focused on their future than their past. That version values peace over proving a point. And that is the version you fought so hard to become. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not revenge at all. It's living well. It's healing. It's becoming so whole within yourself that nothing they did has power over you anymore. That's the kind of growth no one can take away. And even if they never say sorry, even if they never understand what they did, even if they walk around with their version of the story, you still win because you chose yourself. You chose to heal instead of hurt back. You chose to move on instead of stay stuck. You chose to rise instead of retaliate. And that choice over and over again is what makes you powerful. Not the clapbacks, not the drama, but the quiet decision to protect your peace and let life take care of the rest. Growth isn't loud. It's the softest, strongest voice inside you saying, "This isn't worth my soul." And when you listen to that voice, you don't need revenge. You've already won. Winning isn't about who stayed. It's about who you became. We spend so much of our lives thinking that the measure of our worth is tied to who chooses to remain in it. Friends, partners, even family. If they stay, we feel validated. If they leave, we question everything. We replay conversations, dig through memories, and dissect every detail, trying to figure out what went wrong or what we could have done differently. But that mindset misses something important. People come and go, but the real journey is always about who you are becoming through it all. Sometimes the people you thought would be permanent end up being chapters, not endings. And when they leave, it's easy to feel like you've lost, like the story is broken. But not everyone who walks with you is meant to walk the whole way. Some people are there to show you something about life, about love, about yourself, and then they go. That doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean you're unlovable or not enough. It means their role in your story is complete, and now the focus shifts to you. We often look at relationships as proof of success. We think lasting love equals a happy life. We believe friendships that stand the test of time are the goal. And while those things are beautiful, they're not the only markers of growth. Sometimes the real growth happens when someone leaves. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come in the aftermath, because when people walk away, you're forced to look inward. You're left with just yourself. And in that solitude, in that raw honesty, you begin to uncover who you truly are. You start to see your strength. You realize how much you were capable of carrying. You notice the way you kept showing up for work, for others, for life. Even when your heart was heavy, you feel the weight of what you lost, but you also feel the weight of what you gained: self-respect, resilience, clarity. That doesn't come from the people who stayed. That comes from you, from choosing to keep going, from learning how to pick yourself up even when no one is clapping for you. People staying doesn't guarantee your happiness. Just like people leaving doesn't determine your failure. What matters more is who you become through it all, how you respond, how you rise, the boundaries you learn to set, the compassion you begin to show yourself, the way you stop settling for crumbs and start demanding full meals. That's the win. Not someone staying because they're comfortable, but you staying true to yourself even when it's hard. You realize that not all endings are losses. Some are beginnings. Some are doors to better things, to people who understand you, to spaces where you don't have to shrink, to a version of yourself that you never would have discovered if life had gone the way you planned. And when you get there, you won't wish they stayed. You'll thank them for leaving, because their absence made room for your evolution. You may not get closure from the people who walked away. You may not get explanations, apologies, or validation. But you don't need those things to grow. You don't need them to heal. You don't need someone else's permission to step into your power. The transformation is yours, and it doesn't depend on who witnessed it. Sometimes the win is personal, silent, sacred. It's in the peace you feel after years of chaos. It's in the way you speak kindly to yourself. It's in the nights you no longer cry over what's gone, but look forward to what's next. Winning is choosing yourself over and over again. It's letting go without bitterness. It's not begging anyone to understand your worth. It's walking into rooms alone and still holding your head high. It's in forgiving yourself for the things you didn't know. In forgiving them too. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve freedom. You became softer without becoming weak, stronger without building walls, wiser without becoming cold. That kind of growth doesn't come from who stayed. It comes from who you decided to be when everything around you told you to give up. And that's winning. So in the end, it's not about who chose to stay or who walked away. It's about who you chose to become through it all. You didn't just survive the leaving, you transformed in the absence. You found strength in silence, clarity in heartbreak, and power in your own presence. That is your victory. That is your growth, and that is your win.